Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the studio. Another day of happy arting. This week I've been recording quite a few flip throughs of little books that I've been making. So I haven't had enough time to just come hang out with you guys. So I wanted to jump on and have a little show and tell, and then I have a project that will start today but probably won't finish. So show and tell. I think in a previous video I had mentioned that I love to doodle and that I had made a doodle book out of old jelly prints, and so I found the little bag that it was in, so I wanted to show you. So these are just jelly prints that I made on, it feels like just copy paper, so just letter size copy paper. And I didn't use them for whatever reason, because whenever we make jelly prints, we make 300 of them and we only need 6. So what was I going to do with all the other ones? So I decided to just quickly bind them, and all I did was, I have a long reach stapler, so I stapled down the middle, and then I covered up the staples with some washi tape so that I didn't catch my fingers on them. And these are only one-sided, so then I don't have to worry about the acrylic getting stuck together. So they're just all one-sided, and they look like prints probably all from one session, because a lot of the colors in the stencils are very similar. And then in this little bag I have some of my doodling pens, and then I can just grab this and go sit on the sofa and watch TV or whatever. I'm not really good at doing one thing at a time. So, for example, if we're watching a movie, I tend to be leafing through magazines or something. So this is a good thing that I can do, and I just sit there, and you can see I've already added some, or you might be able to see, added some white circles, and I just like to follow the stenciling with a pen. Maybe I'll add some dots. And who knows, one day I may, whenever I finish this book, I can use this as collage, because I can just tear out pieces of it and just leave it in my collage book. But just coming through and finding spots to highlight. It's another way to practice your doodles so that you can vary what you're doing as I continue drawing circle upon circle upon circle. But, so like here, a little V is an unusual doodle for me. So that's a way to practice. Or maybe I want to fill those in with another shape. So it's just a way to explore your doodles and keep your hands moving. This is good too to have in your studio for those days where you don't know what to do. I sometimes find that just doodling will get me somewhere. That's why you will always see all kinds of stuff on my underpaper here, because that's what I do sometimes. And when I'm on the phone, I doodle a lot. So, and then I have everything in a cute little Dina Wakley bag, because then I can just grab it and go sit on the sofa, and I don't have to go through and find my pens and all that kind of stuff. I just have stuff in there. So I wanted to show you that today. And then today our project is related to art journaling. I tend to have many pages in my journal where I create these backgrounds that I really like, but then I don't necessarily have a path that I want to follow to put something on them. I just enjoyed making the background. But I could add on to these. I was just looking to see if I have any others. Well, here's an example. So I had this background. I wanted to add a quote, and this is the technique I do with deli paper. So I'll show that in another video, where you can copy different lettering onto deli paper and then glue it down. So, but sometimes I just like to add something simple. So today I was going to show you one of those things I do. I sometimes like to add these little flip pockets. Obviously these aren't done. But I like to add these little flip pockets that you can put tags in, or you can put ephemera in, and they get attached so they're tipped into your journal, and then they add on to the page. So I wanted to show you how I do these. This is the page I'm going to do, so I did pull out some paints that are related to the page. I'm not going to try to make it exact, because obviously I have no idea what it went into all this. I see a bunch of paper behind it, but other than that, I don't know what I put on there. But I do know, I recognize this pink metallic paint as being one of these Art Alchemy paints. And I recognize the orange, so I just grabbed those. And then, of course, we have to have some sort of blue or teal. So, and I'll probably grab some of my Dina Wakeleys too. So I'm going to set the journal aside because I'm going to build the pockets first. So these pockets are made from junk mail. I have a file folder. I keep all of my, or not all, most of my collage papers and things in these file folders, and then on the side over here I have a rack that they all sit in, and I have them categorized. So this is my junk mail folder. So anytime I get a bill in the mail that I pay online, they still send you an envelope. So I keep them. Or even when they just send you a statement. Because every single envelope company has different patterns. Some are blue, some are black, some are gray. This one, you can tell I haven't used this one because it's so cool. It's almost like a tweed or something. I can't. It has a really cool pattern. I also save them because these windows are good to use. So, just in case you don't have enough junk laying around, here's another thing you need to save. So I have lots of these. So all I do to start the pockets is I go through, and you will need 2 envelopes of the same size. These are kind of a standard size. I have quite a few of these. So it shouldn't be too hard to find 2 of the same. And the size of the envelope depends on the size of your journal. So see, these 2, I could easily make my pockets out of those. So depending on the size of your journal, the journal I'm working in is the Large Dilutions book. So I can handle a taller pocket. But if you work in, say, the smaller dilutions, or any other book that maybe is an 8x8, you'll just have to adjust the sizes of your pockets. So you may want to, before you cut your pockets, you may want to grab the journal and just kind of give them a little tryout and see if they work in there. So if you're using a large journal, I even, look at this, I like prepared stuff. So these are the sizes of the envelopes that I cut. So this large one is 1 envelope, and I just cut maybe 2 or 3 inches off of the top. And then these other 2 come from 1 envelope that I cut down at these lengths. One of them has one of those clear envelope windows, and I just, it doesn't matter because we're going to be painting all over these, so it doesn't matter. I just stuck it on the back, but you just need 3 pieces that are somewhere around there. They don't have to be exact. We're making everything, so you can adjust sizes as you need to, but I wanted to give you some idea if you wanted to make the exact thing that I'm doing. And then the part I don't think we'll get to today is, once I have my pockets, I want to make tags to put in them. So not only will the pockets move, but they'll have tags in them too. So I have sizes for the tags. And these tags I just cut out of brown craft paper. So you can see we have 3 different sizes, and they'll each slide in, and they'll be peeking out of the top. So I wrote down the size of the tags too, but like I said, I don't think we'll get to those. So we'll work on tags next time. So for the envelopes, I'm just going to slide that over so you can still see it if you want. Or if you want to grab your phone and take a screenshot so you have the sizes. So once you have your envelopes cut down, so remember, here's my envelope. I cut the end off this, so this one is now 7 1/4 inches tall. One thing I did, so I sealed these envelopes. These are all sealed up. I just took my glue stick and ran it over the part that you would normally lick so that they were glued down, because we want them to be like a full pocket. And then you cut down your other 2. So now I have all 3 that have openings just at the top. And then you will gesso these, both sides. I pre-gessoed mine because you don't want to watch me just gesso and wait for it to dry. So I went ahead and gessoed both sides. The one tip I will give you is, as you're gessoing, you can do a very thin coat. I just applied it with my silicone brush, but you could use a credit card, an old gift card. You know, I like to use something that isn't a true brush when I'm gessoing, because I find that if you use a brush, like a brush, so much of the gesso gets caught up in the bristles, I feel like I'm wasting it. Whereas when I use something like a silicone tool or a gift card, I can scrape off the excess and use it on the next one, or I can scrape it back into my gesso jar, whichever way. So, of course, I used my Liquitex gesso because you guys know that's my favorite one. This is the one that's watery. I think this is an older bottle, but I believe the new ones do say they have an F on the front for fluid. But if you always look on the back, it'll show you what it's meant for. So it's a preparation layer, it's a matte finish, it's pretty close to the bottom of the fluid scale, and then it is pretty close to the top of the opaque scale. But if you get Liquitex Professional White Gesso, I believe they're all fluid. If it's anything else, I believe they have a heavy body gesso, but it doesn't come in a squeezy bottle. So when you are gessoing, make sure that you are not sealing your envelopes shut on the top that you cut off. So what I was doing is, as I was gessoing, and when I would let it dry, I would sort of prop it open so that there was kind of a little gap in the envelope as it dried, because gesso will act like glue. And worst case, if yours get glued, you just have to trim 1/4 inch or something off of the top. No big deal. So don't worry about it too much. So now I have my envelopes, and I'm going to start adding paint. You can still see the print, but it's not a big deal. We're going to paint over it. I think actually I might add some book page first. So let me grab one of my many old books. My studio is a little bit of a disaster today, so if you hear an avalanche, don't worry, I'm fine. Unless I disappear, then call for help. Alright, oh, don't you just love this? Some people don't like the smell of old books. I do. This is a very old book. I wonder if I... $19.29. So I think I got it for like 50 cents at the antique store because they had a whole shelf full of them and they were 50% off. So I'm just going to add a little bit of book page. You can put this down with gel medium, fluid matte medium. I am going to just use my glue stick because it's fast. And I know I'm going to be putting paint over top of it, so I'm not overly concerned about it not staying down. So I'm just going to grab my little glue book. If you guys didn't see this in a previous video, it's just an old, it's some professional journal my husband got and he was done with, so it was going in the recycling. So I just keep it for my gluing so that I don't get glue all over my desk and my palette and get my arm stuck in it and get glue on stuff that I don't want, etc. And then once I get so much glue on one page, I just flip over to the next page of the magazine and glue again. So I'm just adding a tiny bit. Again, it's going to peek through. You notice at the beginning, I didn't ask you guys how you were doing. I feel like, you know, you want to be nice and say, oh, how are you doing? But everybody's doing the same right now. We're like, yeah, we're at home. We're still here. We may be working, we may not be working. We may be working more than we were before. But everything's kind of, it feels like time is moving very fast, but we're not really going anywhere. So it's not that I don't care. It's just I know that we don't have many answers right now. So now, I said I don't care if it's really glued down, but if your whole corner's sticking up, put some glue under it. So a little bit of collage, that'll add to the background. Now, because these are flip pockets, when you open them, you will be seeing the back. So we will be painting both sides, but I'm going to focus more on the front and just use the backs as like a mop-up page so that I don't have to really think about those, because unless your book is sitting open with all the flip outs, you won't even notice. So I have that down. I'm going to start, that page I'm putting it on was mostly this pink color, but you can use any color you want. It doesn't really matter. This paint is getting old. I can tell. It's nice and thick. Like, it's not going anywhere. That means I need to use it up. So I'm gonna use my palette knife. I'm kind of liking the look of that right now. You can use a brush. You can use whatever you want. Whatever colors you want. If you have old paint, use it up. Don't throw it away. So just a little bit of color on there. This will be my mop-up sheet. So a little bit of pink, a little bit of this orange. This orange I may actually do with the brush, so I can kind of fill in those other spots. So I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush, not a lot, just a little bit, so it'll make it easier to move this orange around. The one thing about these Art Alchemy paints, they dry pretty quick, especially when they're old, so I may have to actually add a little more on there. Now there, I got my brush too wet. So I'll move that around and then I'll grab some more paint. Oh, here's a little blob. I'll grab that blob. And there's no rule that says you have to keep these all the same color. You could paint 3 different color envelopes. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to add to your page. bit of paint for this first one. So, to me, that's a good first layer. I know I'm going to be building on top of it, but at least they have paint on them. I'm going to just hit them with my dryer real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, so they are mostly dry. I got bored. So again, as you're painting these, just keep checking that you still have an opening at the top. I put the paint on somewhat thinly, so I didn't have to worry, but just make sure that you're not sealing your envelope shut. So at each stage, just check them out. So I wanted to use some art foamies today. If you haven't used these, they are very thick foam, and they have patterns on them like stamps, but you don't have to clean them when you use them with paint. So I try not to use my rubber stamps with paint because I'm not really good at cleaning stuff. So I just pulled out a few of these. Now I will tell you that the Art Foamies company is in Canada. So I believe right now it's somewhat hard to get shipping from them, or it may just take longer. So I will warn you, but there are some US companies that have Art Foamies in stock, so you can check them out. I am using my black gesso just because I want it black and I didn't want to have to go dig through the drawer to find it. So my black gesso is always handy. So I just put a little bit out on my palette. I'm going to grab a little brayer. I find that the Art Foamies work better. Sorry for the squeaking. I keep meaning to put oil on this brayer and then I forget. But so I find the foamies work better brayering on the color rather than pressing the stamp into the paint. So whenever I can, I like to do that. And so I just want to add a little bit of this black to each one. I mean, look at that. Look at that. It's so cool. That's why I like these foamies. They give you a really big impression and it's quick. So these are going to be stacked. So at this point I might start thinking about composition. So since I put those on that side, I may put these on that side, and then these on this side. Hopefully I have enough paint left. Close enough. And then to clean your foamies, just press them until you don't get any more paint off. That's all you have to do to clean them. And then you're done. That's why I like them. Plus, I mean, that's just cool. So that's what I have so far. And really, I could kind of leave them like they are. If you have a page that's already done that you're adding on to, sorry for the dryer. Gesso dries super fast, so I just want to hit it real quick. So if you have a page like I do that already has a background, what you can do is, as you work on these flaps, just grab your page and just put them on. Like I can already see there's more orange on these than on the original page, but I kind of like that. And again, remember, you can put these anywhere you want. So I can just get an idea of what it looks like now. And then we can also start thinking about which way we want them to open. Do we want to open in? Do we want them to open out? Do we want them to alternate? So one opens in, one opens out. So there's lots of options. Lots of things to think about. But right now I kind of like that. The only thing is, I'm thinking I need to add some of those black circles over here. So since I still have a little bit of paint left, I'm not going to cover the whole stamp, and I'm going to make it kind of loosey-goosey, so I can just add a little bit. Just so that I have some of that repeating pattern. The one reason I really like to use this black gesso is because it is gesso, so it gives you that kind of toothy grit. So if I want to come back and doodle, say like put white dots inside the circles, it makes it really easy because it's not a slick surface. There. Okay, so I'm liking that. It just gives me a little bit of that repeat, but it's not quite as dark as it is here. So, and why do I like that? I don't know. I just do. Alright, so I know I need some of this turquoise color. And then I also brought in this stamp because I know this is paper. This is actually a gift wrap that I have. But to me, it's kind of a repeating pattern. So I thought I might be able to use that too. But I don't think I want it in black, because I don't want it to compete with my black circles. So I'm going to grab my magenta ink. And see if that'll show up. If it doesn't, then maybe it wasn't meant to be. So this is just Ranger Archival in magenta. I picked it because it was close to one of the colors that I used to paint with. Yeah, so that just adds a little something without it being too obvious and competing. And I'm just going to add little bits. Alright, so I'm happy with that too. It adds just a little bit of extra interest. It's hard to see on camera because of the sheen of the metallic paint. But there's just a little bit there. So I'm going to hit these just real quick with the dryer because I want to flip them over and just do a quick wash of color on the back. Now, if you want to be crazy, you could do a whole different color on the back. Or you could just pick up all the paint that's on your underpaper, like I did apparently. I'm going to use the same colors just because I tend to be messy. And so if I get the same colors on the front, it's not going to be so obvious. Here you can tell I'm doing just a little watered down paint. I probably watered it down a little too much, so I'll probably do a second coat. But I'm not as concerned about this side, just because your book isn't going to be sitting with the flaps sitting open. You're going to open it and look at it and close it again. So I just want some color. And you know, if you didn't want to paint the back, you could easily grab scrapbook paper or a jelly print or tissue, like Tim's tissue wrap, and you could just glue that on, and that would give you something back here. Honestly, you could do that on the front too. Maybe we'll have to do that another day. Use some of the old jelly prints and cover our pockets with those. Clean my brush off. I'm going to come back in. I'm telling you, this stuff is, look how thick that is and sticking off the brush. This is proof that you should really use your paints. Don't let them sit on the shelf. Don't save them for a rainy day. Just use them. They want to be used. I don't even know if Art Alchemy is still making these. They aren't a company that I follow that much, so I don't necessarily know if they're even still making these. Okay, so to me that's good enough for the back. I'm not even going to add any black to it. Sorry if you can hear my brush swishing around. I never know how much this microphone will actually pick up. So let me hit these with the dryer real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so while you guys weren't looking, I found out something so that I can teach you. Remember that envelope that I said, oh, it's got the plastic window on it, but it's not a big deal? Well, yeah, it's not a big deal, but when you use your heat gun to dry stuff, it will cause the plastic to shrink. So now my back envelope is a little puckered. But I'm okay with it, because I think over time, being pressed in my journal, it's going to flatten out, and it's going to have a tag in it, so it's okay. It's okay. But don't do that. Maybe just let them dry naturally. But so I have them dry now, and I just need to add a little bit. I don't think I'm going to use that blue. I think I'm going to use, oh, I have this one. I've had this one sitting over on my desk because there literally is like the teeniest amount left in this bottle. Maybe not so teeny, but I've been trying to use it up. So it's just one of those little craft ones that you can get at Michael's or wherever. And what I'm using is the very end of my silicone brush. Now, if you don't have a silicone brush, you can use the edge of a gift card, credit card, any sort of scraping tool you have, or even a palette knife you can use. But I use it and I dip just the end in my paint, and I love to use this to make little lines. So many times I have this on my pages and somebody will ask me if it's a stencil, but it's not. I guess it could be, but I just like to do it this way. It's one of my mark making techniques that I like to do. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that onto all three of these envelopes. Sometimes I cross them, so I make little tic-tac-toes. Oh, and even if I get a little bit on the black, that looks pretty good. There. Just enough. It stands out so much because I have so much warm in the background. It probably doesn't stand out as much on camera, but here, I'll show you the non-wrinkled one. So it's just that little bit of blue, and it'll tie into the little bit of blue that is on my other page. So I'm going to make some room real quick and bring my journal back up because I'm going to show you how to put these in. Maybe I shouldn't put these in. I'm thinking I should wax them because they're acrylic So when I put them together, they're going to want to be married and stick together forever. Alright, so next time we are going to put the dried pockets into our journal. If you want to get ready, I'm just going to use masking tape to put them in. You want to use something that's a somewhat sturdy tape. So either masking tape, or if you happen to have this plain white artist tape from Dina Wakley, or if you have artist tape in general, they sell it in rolls just like masking tape. So you may have some of that. Have one of those ready, because that's what we're going to use to attach. And then we'll also use some other little bits of paper. I actually make, especially for the one on the front, we'll make a little hinge so it's decorative too. And then we will also make our tags. So if you want to pre-cut your tags, remember these sizes are based on the sizes of my envelopes. So for example, if your envelope is 6, then your tag will need to be smaller too. So use my sizes, or if you're working in a smaller journal, go ahead and figure out those sizes for your tags. And then to cut your tags, you can use any material you want. You can use white cardstock, you can use watercolor paper. I just happened to grab some craft paper because lately, if you've seen my other video, I'm obsessed with the craft paper with white and black on it. So I'm thinking that I'm going to add some white gesso onto these. So that's why I wanted the brown background, because I won't completely cover them with gesso. But so I have 3 pieces, one for each of my envelopes, and just stuck my hand in the teal paint. I'm just attracted to teal. But so I have each of these sizes. Remember, as you're painting, keep checking your envelopes. Don't want them glued shut. So each one is just an inch taller. So that's how much will stick out. And you can just cut these as rectangles for now. And I'll show you my little trick of how to cut the edges and punch the hole. So you don't have to worry about that yet. If you want to just have your 3 pieces ready, or at least just have your paper handy next time, and we'll go ahead and cut it. So I am going to let these completely dry now. I may try to iron that one back out, so it might be flat next time you see it. Who knows? But I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll be back with some more pocket fun next time. Talk to you later. Bye.